Aliens pleaded for help. Earth arrived with full force. The Great Council chamber was silent. Ambassador Velthor stood at the center, his blue skin pale with fear. His people, the Krathen, were dying. Every day more of his world burned. Every hour more cities fell. The enemy came like a plague, consuming everything in their path. "Please," Velthor said, his voice breaking, "we need help. The Devourers will destroy us all." The council members looked away. Hundreds of alien species sat in that chamber, representing thousands of worlds. Not one of them spoke. They had debated for 3 weeks. The answer was always the same. No one would help. The risk was too great. Captain Ji-Ho watched the transmission from his ship, the Indomitable. He sat in his command chair, hands gripped tight on the armrests. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone had seen the broadcasts from Krathen Prime. The footage was terrible. Cities burning, people running, children crying for parents who would never come home. "Sir, incoming message from Earth Command," his communications officer said. Ji-Ho stood up. "Put it through." Admiral Hyun-woo appeared on the main screen. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was strong. "Captain, you've seen the situation?" "Yes, sir. The Krathen are finished if no one helps them. The Galactic Council says it's not our problem. They say we're too new to galactic politics, too weak to make a difference." Hyun-woo paused. "But the UN Security Council just voted. We're going to help them." The bridge went quiet. Everyone stopped working and stared at the screen. "Sir," Ji-Ho said carefully, "the Council refused to help. Every species with a real military said no. What can we do?" "Everything we have, Captain. Earth is sending its full force." Ji-Ho felt something strange in his chest. Pride, maybe, or fear. Perhaps both. "How many ships?" "All of them. Every vessel we can spare. 200 warships, 50,000 Marines, medical ships, supply ships, everything. You'll command the vanguard. Admiral Kim will bring the main fleet." On her station, young Officer Hana looked up with wide eyes. She was only 23, fresh from the academy. This was her first deep space assignment. "Admiral," she said quietly, "the other species have thousands of ships. They're more advanced than us. If they won't help, how can we?" Hyun-woo smiled sadly. "Because someone has to, Lieutenant. The Krathen asked for help. We're going to answer." The transmission ended. Ji-Ho turned to his crew. They looked scared. They looked uncertain. Good. That meant they understood what was coming. "Set course for Krathen space," he ordered. "Maximum speed. Send word to all Earth ships in this sector. We're forming up at Mars orbit in 48 hours. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Ji-Ho barely slept. He studied everything they knew about the Devourers. It wasn't much. The aliens didn't use metal ships like everyone else. Their vessels were alive, grown from some horrible biological process. They could repair themselves. They reproduced rapidly, and they were hungry, always hungry. Dr. Yuna came to his quarters on the second night. She was the fleet's chief scientist, a thin woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She carried a datapad filled with research. "I've been analyzing the Devourer biology," she said, sitting down without asking. Ji-Ho liked that about her. She never wasted time on formalities. "What did you find?" "They're completely organic. No technology as we understand it. But that's also their weakness." She pulled up images on the datapad. "Living things can be poisoned. They can get sick. They can die." "Can you make a weapon?" "Maybe. I need samples. Live ones if possible. Dead ones will work too." She looked at him seriously. "This is going to be bad, Ji-Ho. Really bad. The Krathen had a fleet 3 times the size of ours. The Devourers destroyed it in 6 days." "I know. Do you? Because I'm not sure humanity understands what we're flying into." Ji-Ho stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. Somewhere down there, his sister was teaching school. His mother was tending her garden. Normal people living normal lives. They didn't know that humanity was about to fight its first real war among the stars. "We understand," he said quietly. "Maybe better than you think. Humanity has fought wars for thousands of years. We know the cost. But we also know that some things are worth fighting for." At Mars orbit, the fleet gathered. Hana watched from the bridge as ship after ship arrived. American destroyers with their proud eagles, Korean cruisers with the Taeguk symbol, Chinese carriers with red stars, Brazilian frigates, Nigerian gunboats, Indian medical ships, ships from every nation on Earth, all flying the United Earth banner. "I've never seen so many ships in one place," she whispered. Beside her, Tactical Officer Tae-min nodded. His job was to coordinate the fleet's weapons. He looked nervous. 217 vessels total. Every missile, every gun, every fighter we have. If we lose this fleet, Earth's defenses will be wide open. "We won't lose," Jiho said, walking onto the bridge. "Because losing means the Krathen die. And after the Krathen, the Devourers will find another world to consume. And another. Eventually, they might find Earth." The fleet jumped to hyperspace together. It took 7 days to reach Krathen space. 7 long days of preparation. Sergeant Da-Yun drilled her Marines until they moved like machines. They practiced boarding actions, fighting in zero gravity, combat in poisoned atmospheres. The Marines were tough men and women, veterans from Earth's various militaries, but they knew this enemy was different from anything they'd faced before. On the 6th day, they received a message from Krathen space. It was short. Desperate. "This is Krathen Prime. The capital is surrounded. We have days left, maybe hours. If anyone can hear this, please, we're dying." Hana played the message for Jiho. He listened in silence, then walked to the viewing window. Ahead of them, normal space waited. Beyond it, a civilization faced extinction. "Increase speed," he ordered. "I don't care if we burn out the engines. We're not letting them die alone." The fleet burst from hyperspace into Krathen space, and what they saw made even experienced officers gasp in horror. The Devourers were everywhere. Aliens pleaded for help. Earth arrived with full force. The sensors couldn't count them all. Thousands of enemy ships filled the space around Krathen Prime, maybe tens of thousands. They moved like insects, swarming around the planet in thick clouds. Each ship was different, grown rather than built. Some looked like massive worms with teeth. Others resembled jellyfish the size of buildings. All of them were covered in organic armor that pulsed and moved. "My God," Taemin whispered from his station. "How are we supposed to fight that?" Jiho gripped his chair. His hands were steady even though his heart raced. "The same way we fight everything else, with courage and good aim. Ready all weapons. Launch fighters. Tell the fleet to form battle formation Delta." The human ships spread out across space, looking tiny compared to the Devourer swarm. On the planet below, the Krathen watched their sensors in disbelief. A human fleet had actually come, but it looked so small. Elder Hae-won stood in the Krathen command center, her 4 arms trembling. She was old enough to remember when her people first reached the stars. Now she was watching them die. The human fleet appeared on her screens, and she wanted to cry. They had sent everything they had. It wouldn't be enough. "Open a channel to the human commander," she ordered. Jiho's face appeared on her screen. He looked young to her eyes, too young for what was coming. "This is Captain Jiho of Earth. We're here to help." "Captain, I am grateful beyond words. But you must see the situation. There are too many of them. You should leave while you can." "With respect, Elder, we didn't come all this way to leave. Tell your ships to stay near the planet. We'll handle the Devourers." "But how? We had 3,000 warships. They destroyed us in less than a week." Jiho smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Then I guess it's good that humans fight differently than you do. Stand by. The channel closed. Haiwan stared at the screen, unsure whether to feel hope or despair. The Devourers noticed the human fleet. A group of about 200 enemy ships broke from the main swarm and rushed toward them. They moved fast, frighteningly fast for something so large. "Enemy contact in 60 seconds, Taemin called out. "Recommend we fire missiles at maximum range." "Negative," Jiho said. "Let them get closer. I want them to think we're easy prey." Hana looked back from her station, worried. "Sir, they'll be able to target us at close range." "That works both ways, Lieutenant. Hold fire until I give the command." The Devourer ships closed in. 50 seconds, 40, 30. The bridge crew was silent except for the beeping of equipment. 20 seconds. 10. "Fire everything," Jiho said calmly. The human fleet opened up at once. Missiles streaked across space by the hundreds. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed. Energy weapons carved through the darkness. At close range, every shot hit. The Devourer ships exploded. No, not exploded. They burst apart like rotten fruit, spraying organic matter into space. The human weapons tore through their armor easily. In 30 seconds, half the attacking force was destroyed, but the rest kept coming. That was the terrifying thing about them. They didn't retreat. They didn't hesitate. They just came, driven by endless hunger. "Brace for impact," Taemin shouted. 3 Devourer ships slammed into the destroyer Soul. The impact crumpled its hull like paper. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship's reactor went critical and exploded, taking the Devourers with it. 200 human lives gone in an instant. "Soul is lost," Hana reported, her voice shaking. "Medical ships are recovering survivors." Jiho nodded once, his face hard. "Continue firing, don't let up." The battle raged for 20 minutes. When it ended, every Devourer ship in the attack group was destroyed. But humanity had lost 4 ships and damaged a dozen more. Dr. Yuna watched the battle from her lab on the medical ship. When the fighting stopped, she immediately contacted the recovery teams. "I need samples. Bring me pieces of the Devourers, as many as you can carry." The teams suited up and flew to the debris field. They collected chunks of organic material still twitching with artificial life. It was disgusting work. Several Marines threw up inside their helmets. Back in her lab, Yuna worked through the night. She cut into the alien tissue with surgical tools. She analyzed its DNA, if it could be called that. The Devourers were like nothing else in the galaxy. They were designed, built by some ancient race as weapons. Now they just consumed, following their basic programming forever. But living weapons could be killed. Everything alive had weaknesses. "I need to speak with the captain," she said to her assistant. Jiho came to the lab, still wearing his uniform, covered in sweat from hours on the bridge. Yuna showed him her findings. "They regenerate fast," she explained. "But regeneration requires energy. They get that energy from what they consume. Planets, ships, anything organic. How do we stop them? We poison them. I can create a virus that attacks their cellular structure. It will spread through their swarm like disease. But I need time to develop it, and I need to release it into their population somehow." "How much time?" 3 days, maybe 4. Jiho rubbed his tired eyes. "The Krathen don't have 4 days. The main swarm hasn't even noticed us yet. When they do, then we need to hold them off," Yuna said firmly, "no matter what it costs." Over the next 2 days, the human fleet positioned itself between Krathen Prime and the Devourer swarm. They fought 6 more battles. Each time, the humans won, but the victories came at terrible cost. Ships were destroyed. Thousands died. The medical ships overflowed with wounded. Sergeant Da-Un led a marine assault on a damaged Devourer ship that drifted too close to the fleet. She and 50 Marines boarded it, weapons ready. Inside was like being inside a living stomach. The walls pulsed. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. Smaller devourers, the size of dogs, attacked them in the corridors. "Flamethrowers!" Daun shouted. "Burn everything!" The Marines had brought experimental weapons, just in case. The flamethrowers worked beautifully. The devourers couldn't regenerate from fire. They burned and died, screaming sounds that made the Marines' skin crawl. Da-Yun found the ship's core, a massive organ that pumped nutrients through the vessel. She planted explosives and ran. The ship exploded minutes later. But they learned something valuable. Fire worked. Heat worked. Back on the Indomitable, Lieutenant Sung-min sat in the fighter bay, exhausted. He had flown 4 missions in 2 days. His fighter was held together with patches and prayers. Around him, other pilots slept in their cockpits, too tired to walk to their bunks. "This is insane," his wingman muttered. "We're going to die here." "Maybe," Sung-min said, "but not today. Today we keep fighting." On the planet below, Haewon watched the humans die for her people. She wept. The Galactic Council had abandoned the Krathen. But these strange, violent humans had come. They fought like demons, taking losses that would make any other species surrender. Yet they didn't retreat. They didn't even slow down. "Why?" she asked the darkness. "Why would they do this for us?" No one answered. But she knew she would never forget. None of the Krathen would ever forget what humanity did here. Aliens pleaded for help. Earth arrived with full force. On the 3rd day, the main swarm noticed them. It was like waking a sleeping monster. Thousands of devourer ships turned away from the planet and rushed toward the human fleet. The movement was so sudden, so massive, that sensors couldn't process it all at once. "Contact!" Tae-min shouted. "Multiple contacts! Thousands of them! Mother of God, they're all coming at us!" Ji-ho stood from his chair and walked to the front of the bridge. He stared at the approaching swarm on the main screen. Every instinct told him to run. They were outnumbered 50 to 1, maybe 100 to 1. No sane commander would fight these odds. "Admiral Hyun-woo is 2 days away with reinforcements," Hana said quietly. "Should we fall back and wait?" "No. The Krathen don't have 2 days." Ji-ho turned to face his crew. "This is what we came here to do. We're going to hurt them so badly they'll never forget that humans fought here. All ships, attack formation. We're going straight at them." The human fleet accelerated toward the swarm. It looked like suicide. Even the Krathen watching from the planet thought so. But Ji-ho had a plan. He had studied how the Devourers fought. They relied on numbers and regeneration. They swarmed targets, overwhelmed them, then moved on. They had no real tactics, no strategy, just hunger. Humans were different. Humans had spent thousands of years getting very good at killing things. "Launch nuclear mines," Ji-ho ordered. "Full spread. Pattern Delta 7. Hundreds of small devices shot from the human ships. They spread out across the space between the fleet and the swarm, invisible to the Devourer's biological sensors. The enemy rushed right into them. The mines detonated. Nuclear fire bloomed in space like deadly flowers. Dozens of Devourer ships vaporized instantly. Hundreds more were damaged. Their organic armor burned away. The swarm faltered for the first time, confused by the sudden pain. "Now! All ships! Fire at will!" The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Every weapon, every missile, every gun. The space between the fleets became a wall of fire and metal. More Devourers died. But they kept coming. There were always more. A massive Devourer ship, bigger than anything they had seen before, pushed through the swarm. It was covered in thick armor and moved with terrible purpose. Tae-min identified it immediately. "Sir, that's a Queen class. It's carrying eggs. If it reaches a planet, it will spawn thousands more Devourers. Target that ship. Everything we have. 6 human destroyers focused their fire on the Queen. Missiles hit it again and again. Railgun slugs punched through its armor. Energy beams burned its flesh. But it kept coming, regenerating almost as fast as they could damage it. "It's not enough," Taemin said desperately. "We can't kill it fast enough." Diane heard the transmission from her assault ship. She and her Marines were preparing for another boarding action. She made a decision. "This is Sergeant Da Yun. I'm taking my team to that Queen ship. We'll kill it from the inside." "Negative," Jiho responded. "Too dangerous." "Everything we're doing is too dangerous, Captain. Let us do our job." Before Jiho could respond, Da-un's assault ship launched. 5 more ships carrying Marine teams followed her. They dodged through the battle, flying between Devourer ships and human weapons fire. It was like flying through hell. They crashed into the Queen ship's side, burning holes in its armor with cutting torches. The Marines poured inside, weapons ready. The interior was worse than the other ships. It was hot, wet, and filled with the sound of organic machinery. Worst of all were the eggs. They lined the walls in huge clusters, each one containing a baby devourer. "Burn it all," Dawoon ordered. "Every single egg." The Marines moved through the ship with flamethrowers and explosives. The heat inside became unbearable. Several Marines passed out from heat stroke. Others kept fighting even when their suits started to fail. They had a job to do. Meanwhile, Dr. Yuna worked frantically in her lab. The virus was almost ready. She had tested it on captured devourer tissue with good results. But she needed to deploy it somehow. The virus would spread through contact, but she had to get it into the swarm first. "I have an idea," she told Jiho over the comm. "It's crazy, but it might work." "Right now, I'll take crazy. We load the virus into atmospheric dispersal drones. Then we fly them into the thickest part of the swarm and detonate them. The virus will spread like wildfire." "Who's going to fly them? Those drones aren't fast. They'll be sitting targets." "I know." There was silence on the channel. Then Lieutenant Sung Min's voice came through. "I'll do it. My fighter squadron will escort the drones." Sung Min was exhausted. His hands shook from too much combat and too little sleep. But someone had to do it, and he had always been the best pilot in his class. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Jiho said quietly. 30 minutes later, Sung Min led 5 drones and 20 fighters into the swarm. The Devourers swarmed them immediately. Fighters died one by one, buying time for the drones to reach the center of the enemy formation. Sung Min's ship was hit twice. His left engine failed. Cockpit pressure dropped. "Drones in position," he gasped. "Detonating now." The drones exploded, releasing clouds of engineered virus into space. It looked like nothing at first, just a slight shimmer. But the virus began to work immediately. It spread from ship to ship, carried by the Devourer's own biological systems. Within minutes, ships started to die. Their regeneration failed. Their armor fell apart. They drifted in space, lifeless. Sung Min didn't see it. His fighter was too damaged. He ejected, floating in his suit, hoping someone would find him before his air ran out. Inside the Queen ship, Da-un felt it die around her. The organic walls stopped pulsing. The heat faded. Her team had destroyed the egg chambers, and now the virus was killing the ship itself. "Everyone out! Now! This thing is coming apart!" The Marines ran for their entry point. The ship was collapsing, tunnels closing around them. 3 Marines didn't make it, trapped when a corridor sealed shut. Da-un heard them screaming on the comm. Then nothing. She made it to her assault ship with 27 Marines. 30 had gone in. She would remember the ones who didn't come out for the rest of her life. The virus spread through the swarm like a plague. Thousands of Devourer ships died in hours. But thousands more remained, and they were angry now. They threw themselves at the human fleet with renewed fury. On Krathen Prime, Haywan watched the battle and made a decision. The humans were dying for her people. The least she could do was fight beside them. "Activate all remaining ships," she ordered. "Every vessel that can still fly, we're going to help them." The Krathen had lost most of their fleet, but they still had 40 ships left, hiding in orbit. They were damaged, low on ammunition, crewed by wounded survivors. But they launched anyway. Haywan broadcast on all channels, speaking in broken English. "Humans of Earth, you came when no one else would. Now we stand with you. Today, Krathen and human fight as one." Ji-Ho smiled, though his ship was shaking from impacts. "Welcome to the battle, Elder. Let's finish this together." The combined fleet pushed forward. The Devourers were dying, but they wouldn't stop. Neither would the humans. It was a battle to the death, and only one species would survive. Aliens pleaded for help. Earth arrived with full force. The battle raged for 3 more days. Ships on both sides fell like leaves in a storm. The human fleet was down to 140 vessels. Many of those were heavily damaged, held together by the skill of desperate engineers. Bodies filled the medical ships faster than they could be processed. The Marines had stopped counting their dead, but the Devourers were dying too. Dr. Yuna's virus had spread through nearly half their swarm. Dead ships drifted everywhere, their organic hulls rotting in space. For the first time since the invasion began, the Devourers were losing. Then the sensors found something new. Taemin stared at his screen, not believing what he was seeing. "Captain, we have a massive contact. It's behind the swarm, hidden until now. Sir, it's the size of a moon." Ji-Ho walked to the sensor station. The image made his blood run cold. A massive organism hung in space, easily 50 kilometers across. It pulsed with life, and from it, new Devourer ships were being born. They emerged from openings in its surface, hundreds at a time. "That's their nest ship," Yuna said over the comm. She had been monitoring the battle from her lab. "It's the source. Everything else comes from that thing. As long as it lives, they can replace their losses forever." "How do we kill it?" "Concentrated fire at the core. But with that much organic armor, it would take days of sustained bombardment." "We don't have days." Ji-Ho stared at the image. Days. They didn't even have hours. Admiral Hyunwoo's reinforcements had arrived yesterday, but even the combined fleet was barely holding on. If the Devourers could keep producing new ships, humanity would lose through simple attrition. He thought of his sister on Earth, his mother in her garden, all the people who would die if the Devourers weren't stopped here. An idea formed in his mind. A terrible idea, but it was the only one he had. "I need to speak with Admiral Hyunwoo. Private channel." 5 minutes later, Ji-Ho addressed his crew. His face was calm, but Hana could see the sadness in his eyes. "The Indomitable has taken heavy damage. We've lost half our weapons, our shields are gone, and structural integrity is at 30%. This ship won't survive much longer." He paused. "So we're going to use it for one final mission." Taemin looked up from his station. "Sir? We're going to load every nuclear weapon in the fleet onto this ship. Then we're going to ram it into the nest ship's core. The explosion will destroy it from the inside." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. It was a suicide mission. "I'm calling for volunteers," Ji-Ho continued. "I need a skeleton crew to fly the ship. 10 people, maybe 15. Everyone else will evacuate. You've all fought bravely. No one will think less of you if you choose to leave." "I'm staying," Hana said immediately. She was terrified, but she couldn't let her captain die alone. "Me too," Taemin said. One by one, the bridge crew volunteered. In the end, 23 people chose to stay. Ji-Ho tried to argue with some of them. They were too young, too talented to waste, but they wouldn't budge. Lieutenant Sung Min, who had been rescued after his fighter was destroyed, volunteered to pilot one of the smaller ships that would escort the Indomitable. His hands still shook sometimes, and he had nightmares about the swarm, but he wouldn't let his captain go alone. Over the next 6 hours, every working ship in the fleet transferred their nuclear weapons to the Indomitable. Engineers welded them throughout the ship's interior, clustering them around what was left of the reactor. When they were done, the ship carried enough firepower to crack a small planet. Da-Un came aboard before they left. She found Ji-Ho in his quarters, writing letters to the families of his crew. "Sir, I wanted to say goodbye." Ji-Ho stood and shook her hand. "Take care of the survivors, Sergeant. Make sure people remember what happened here." "I will. And, sir, thank you for everything." She saluted and left. Ji-Ho finished his letters and walked to the bridge one last time. His crew was already at their stations. They looked scared but determined. "Last chance to leave," he said softly. No one moved. "Then let's finish this. Helm, plot a course to the nest ship. Full speed." The Indomitable pulled away from the fleet. 6 escort ships followed, including Sung Min's fighter. The rest of the fleet formed a corridor, keeping the Devourers away from Ji-Ho's approach. The nest ship seemed to sense danger. Hundreds of Devourer ships moved to intercept. The escorts fought them off, buying time. 2 escort ships died in the first minute. Another exploded when a cluster of Devourers rammed it. 60 seconds to impact, Hana reported. Her voice was steady, though tears ran down her face. "Open a channel to all ships," Ji-Ho ordered. "I want everyone to hear this." Hana nodded, fingers flying across her controls. "Channel open," Ji-Ho took a breath. "This is Captain Ji-Ho of the UNS Indomitable. To everyone listening, human and Krathen alike. We didn't come here because it was easy. We didn't come because we expected to win. We came because it was right. Because when someone asks for help, you answer." He smiled. "This is humanity. We don't leave jobs half-finished. We don't abandon people in need. And we sure as hell don't give up." The ship shook as it entered the nest's outer defenses. Organic weapons fired, tearing holes in the hull. Atmosphere vented, lights failed, but the engines held, pushing them forward. 30 seconds, Hana said. "It's been an honor serving with you all," Ji-Ho said to his crew. "The honor was ours, sir," Tai-Min replied. Across the fleet, on every ship, humans and Krathen stood at attention. Tears fell, hands raised in salute. They watched the Indomitable's final approach. The ship pierced the nest's outer layer. Inside was a nightmare of organic tunnels and pulsing chambers. Ji-Ho aimed for the largest structure, what looked like a massive heart. 10 seconds. "Goodbye, Earth," Hana whispered. The Indomitable struck the core at full speed. For one moment, nothing happened. Then the nuclear weapons detonated all at once. The explosion was beyond measurement. It tore the nest ship apart from the inside, ripping through its body like a wave of white fire. The shockwave spread outward, destroying thousands of nearby Devourer ships. Sung Min was far enough away to survive the blast. He watched the nest ship die, tears streaming down his face. Around him, the Devourer swarm began to collapse. Without the nest, they had no coordination, no purpose. They drifted in space, dying slowly from the virus and lack of direction. On the bridge of the medical ship, Dr. Yuna watched the sensors. The life signs of the nest ship faded to nothing. The Devourers were finished. She sat down and cried. They had won, but the cost was so high. On Krathen Prime, Haywan watched the flash of the explosion. She fell to her knees, all 4 arms covering her face. The humans had saved her people, and it had cost them everything. "Never forget," she whispered. "We will never forget what they did." Aliens pleaded for help. Earth arrived with full force. The battle was over. The remaining Devourer ships drifted in space, dying from the virus, or simply shutting down without the nest ship's guidance. The human and Krathen forces hunted down the survivors methodically, making sure none escaped to threaten another world. The cost was terrible. Humanity had brought 217 ships to Krathen space. Only 93 remained capable of flight. 12,000 humans had died. Thousands more were wounded, many critically. Every ship carried scars. Every survivor carried memories they would never forget, but they had won. The Krathen were saved. The Devourers were finished. Sergeant Da Yun stood in the landing bay of her ship, watching Marines load body bags. So many body bags. She had started this campaign with 300 Marines under her command. Now she had 147. The rest were dead or wounded beyond the ability to fight. She thought about Captain Ji-ho, about his last transmission, about the way he had smiled even as he flew to his death. Heroes, everyone called them. But Da-un didn't feel like a hero. She just felt tired and sad. A Krathen shuttle requested permission to land. Da-yun watched it touch down, and Elder Haewon emerged. The old alien looked different somehow, older, but also stronger. She walked to Da-yun and did something unexpected. She bowed. All 4 arms crossed over her chest in the Krathen gesture of ultimate respect. Sergeant Da-yun, on behalf of my people, thank you. You saved us when no one else would. We can never repay this debt. Da-yun felt uncomfortable with the gratitude. We did what anyone should do, what anyone would do. No, Haewon said firmly. The Galactic Council would not help. Thousands of species refused. Only humanity answered. Only you. Over the next week, the Krathen people worked alongside human engineers to repair the damaged ships. They gave everything they had. Food, medical supplies, raw materials, anything the humans needed. Krathen doctors learned human medicine. Krathen mechanics learned human technology. They worked together, united by shared sacrifice. Dr. Yuna published her research on the virus. She sent it to every species in the Galactic Council. Now everyone would have the tools to fight devourer incursions. Some council members criticized her, saying such dangerous knowledge shouldn't be shared freely. Yuna didn't care about their opinions. The devourers are everyone's enemy, she told them. If you won't fight them, at least take the tools to defend yourselves. On Earth, the news of the victory came with grief. 12,000 families received visits from military officers. 12,000 homes learned they had lost someone. The planet mourned together. But they also felt pride. Humanity had proven something important. When someone needed help, Earth would answer. Memorial services were held in every nation. Admiral Hyun-woo, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, spoke at the largest service in Seoul. We sent our children to die for strangers, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. That sounds cruel. That sounds wasteful. But it was necessary. Because if we turn away from suffering, if we ignore pleas for help, then what are we? The Krathen needed us. Captain Ji-ho and 12,000 others gave their lives to answer that need. They died so that billions of Krathen could live. That is the meaning of sacrifice. That is the meaning of honor. The Krathen erected monuments to the human dead. The largest was built at their capital, a massive wall of stone carved with every name. Captain Ji-ho's name was at the top, letters 20 feet high. Below it, a simple inscription in Korean and Krathen. They came when asked. They fought when needed. They died so others could live. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The human delegate, Ambassador Minho, stood before hundreds of species. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry. The Velkorian Empire's representative, a proud species that had dominated galactic politics for centuries, spoke first. The humans violated protocol. They deployed military forces without council approval. They created biological weapons. They changed the balance of power. This cannot stand. Haewon rose from her seat. She was old, but her voice carried clearly. Violated protocol? My people were dying. We begged for help. Every species in this chamber refused. You debated while we burned. You worried about protocol while our children died. Then humanity came. These primitive newcomers that you all dismissed. They lost 12,000 people saving us. They gave everything expecting nothing in return. And now you complain about protocol? She looked around the chamber, her eyes hard. You should be ashamed. All of you. Humanity showed us what it means to be civilized. It means helping those in need, no matter the cost. It means standing up when others won't. The Krathen will never forget what Earth did. We are formally requesting a military alliance with humanity. We are offering them full access to our technology, our resources, our worlds, because they earned it with blood. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species agreed with Haiwan, others protested. But it didn't matter. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer. They had proven themselves in the most important way possible. Over the next year, 37 species signed defense pacts with Earth. Most were smaller powers, worried they might be the next target of some galactic threat. But they trusted humans to help them, because humans had helped the Krathen. The Velkorian Empire tried to oppose this new alliance. They saw humanity as a threat to their dominance. But when pirates attacked a Velkorian colony, the Empire was slow to respond. A human fleet arrived first. They fought off the pirates and saved thousands of Velkorian citizens. The Empire never publicly thanked Earth, but they stopped opposing human expansion. They had learned the same lesson everyone else did. Humanity kept its promises. When they said they would help, they helped. Hana, now promoted to commander, served on the new carrier UNSG Ho. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built, designed to carry fighters and marines anywhere they were needed. She stood on the bridge, looking at a transmission from the Minari, a peaceful species on the far side of the galaxy. "Please," the Minari ambassador said. "Pirates are attacking our colonies. The Council won't help. We don't have a military. We need Earth." Commander Hana looked at the captain, a veteran named Jiwon. Jiwon smiled. "Set course for Minari space," Jiwon ordered. "Maximum speed. Tell the fleet to form up. We have work to do." Hana sent the response to the Minari. "This is Earth. We're coming. Hold on." The UNS Jiho jumped to hyperspace. Behind it, 30 warships followed. Around the galaxy, human fleets patrolled trade routes, protected colonies, and stood ready to help anyone who asked. Earth had learned something important in the fires of Krathen space. Humanity didn't do half measures. When someone needed help, Earth arrived with full force, every time, no matter the cost. That was the promise humanity made to the galaxy, and they would keep it no matter what. On Krathen Prime, children grew up hearing stories of the humans who saved their world. They learned the names of the fallen. They studied human culture and language. Many young Krathen joined the combined Human-Krathen Military Academy that Sergeant Da-Un had established. Da-Un, now a general, taught them about duty and sacrifice. She told them about Captain Jiho's last transmission, about how he smiled even at the end, about what it means to stand up when others won't. "Never forget what was done for you," she told each graduating class. "And never forget what you might be asked to do for others. That is the burden and the honor of those who serve." In orbit above Krathen Prime, a single ship remained on permanent station. The UNS Indomitable II, named after the ship that saved a world. It was a reminder, a promise. Humanity had come once when asked. They would come again if needed. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it was a little bit safer now, because somewhere among the stars, human ships patrolled the darkness, watching, waiting, ready to answer when someone called for help. They always answered. That was what made them human.